Now, do you ever wonder why your acrylic paintings might look a tad dull, maybe muddy, slightly overworked? Well, if not, then you can switch off now. However, if you're still there and would like to produce rich, luminous, luscious acrylic paintings, then keep watching. Or if you've never painted in acrylics before, I'm going to be showing you some insights into the do's and don'ts of this most versatile medium. So be prepared to be inspired by vibrant acrylics. Let's paint. Okay, for this landscape I'm going to be painting this scene that's very close to my heart. It's where I go to feed ducks and geese and swans. And really to start off with, I would lay down quite a strong, vibrant base colour. So in this case I'm going to use deep violet mixed in with white, really to soften the tone of the colour. So as I lay the shade onto my canvas, it's quite light. And the reason I do this is really to get my arm going, my entire arm going, before I start painting properly. So it kind of is a really good warm-up. And also I'm using lots of different kind of brush strokes. Again, as a warm-up exercise, it's not so important which colour I use, just that there's a colour down rather than white canvas, which can be a little bit intimidating. Okay, so once I've allowed this base colour to dry, I can get on with some drawing, just to get a rough idea of the scene. What I'm going to do is use my 1-inch flat brush with some cerulean blue, and really I just want a couple of minutes just to gauge roughly where everything's going to go. So we'll start off with a couple of blocky marks. The brush is slightly damp, really just to get the paint going. A lot of this stuff is going to be painted over. It's just really for me to, like I say, gauge where I want things to go. All I want is to get an idea of structure and composition. Okay, so the main focus really for this scene is going to be the strong light source on this side, and I've got the tree which kind of frames the scene on the right, and also just the bank over here, the lines of trees, and there's a little bit of a reflection. I use a square head brush for most of my paintings, really to create some interesting marks, because that's where I want this painting to go. I want it to be not about refined detail, and a lot to do with interesting marks and hopefully colours. What I'm going to start with is where the sun is really emanating through. So lots and lots of cadmium yellow, a touch of yellow ochre. The reason I'm using lots of colours all on one brush is just so they interact and mix together naturally. So for example, if I get a lot of this yellow, touch of red, and apply to where the sun is, you'll see straight away I've got nice thick paint. It's streaking with the red, yellow, and there's a touch of yellow ochre just to give it another dimension. And then from there I can work my way out and use more of the red, some burnt sienna, really just to tone it down, and start to carve my way around this strong area of light. It's really important with acrylics not to water them down too much, because you really take away colour, and they're not as concentrated as oil paint. So the more you do run water or drain them down or over blend them, they just go really flat and dull, and you really don't want that in your acrylic paintings. Okay, so what I want to do, maybe streak some of the yellow out. At this stage, I'm kind of finding my way. This is a kind of just getting used to seeing paint in this quantity on the canvas. I'm not really looking too much at refinement at all. It's all about creating interest. I always use my largest brush first, so hence the 2-inch Skyflow, just to get very dramatic and really expressive marks. The drawing is all about being technical, but at this stage it's all about lively, rich colours. It should actually look quite abstract before anything too realistic happens. What I've done with these mixes, I've just introduced a little bit more purple or deep violet with processed magenta and burnt sienna. One of the things that happens, the more you allow paint to filter through, you become a bit less concerned with replicating the photo too exact. Okay, so again, just always looking at this stage for very, very interesting marks. So I've got the reflections from the liner trees coming into the water. Again, lots of rich colour. One of the problems about photos is that they subdue lots of the rich colour. I mean, this is a photo I've taken, and I still remember the colour was incredibly intense. What I'm trying to do at this stage is really make this area where the sun is the focus of attention, and then I can work my way around the canvas. At this stage, I'm really taken, again, by thickness of paint, the richness of the colour. I've already got options, if you like, in terms of I can add more detail. I can use smaller brushes for contrasting marks. Now, I don't want to clean the brush out at all really at this stage, because I want to make do with all the colours that I've used so far. So there's like a history to this brush at the moment, because it's got all the colours I've used. I'm just going to add more of the blues. So I've got processed cyan, cobalt blue and cerulean blue mixed in with purple. The purple or violet is a kind of bridging colour for the other cool colours, because purple has a bit of blue in it, and it's a bit more harmonious when you introduce these cooler colours. So again, lots of marks, and as I apply the paint, I'm not trying to fiddle with it too much. I'm applying it in 1 or 2 goes, and I'm moving on to the next area. So I can, again, it's about consistency at this stage. I want everything worked on so it gels together. We'll go a little bit darker at the corner now. One of the things you want to try to develop is a natural instinct to painting. And I do find, yeah, I've done enough there, I can move up, and that's my gut telling me, yeah, it's time to move on. Otherwise, I'm going to just play around there too much. I'm obviously going to go back there later on and refine and maybe add a few smaller touches, but really I want to allow these initial layers just really settle down. Okay, go a bit darker there. What I need to do now is link these 2 areas. So I need to go back to some warmer colours. So back to deep violet with processed magenta, maybe a bit of red. There is a bit of an issue when you have colours which are complementaries or which could lightly clash. So you need these bridging colours. I use burnt sienna and processed magenta quite a bit because they're quite luminous, especially the magenta. The burnt sienna is slightly more translucent, but each reacts with other colours and just blends them in. Okay, so we'll go for a bit more red as well into these darks. And again, as the colours all interact on the brush and come through on the canvas, they give me different and subtle mixes, hopefully. What I'm trying to do also is exploit all the colours on my palette as much as I can, because that's going to create as much interest in this painting as possible. And again, the photo tends to flatten out all the dark areas, so I'm just invigorating them with colour. Hopefully they're not too garish because of all the colours that are mixing on the brush. And I'll just finish with this area here. Again, I need to introduce some other lighter colours. So I've got yellow ochre, which is a very opaque, light, earthy shade, which I'll mix with some burnt sienna. Again, I've got lots of other colours on my brush, and as I drag the new combinations, they interact and again create some lovely natural blending. Just move along here, a bit more green. You'll find if you use quite strong expressive colour like this, all of a sudden they'll interact in a much more positive way. So the shades of green react very well against the red, the purples and darks. Okay, so again, all done with my largest brush to create interest. At this stage, I probably do want to change my brush. So I'm going to use another 2-inch Skyflow, really just to pick out a couple of small areas here and there, which I just want to enhance. So we'll go back to yellow. It's easier to work with lighter shades, simply because if I add a tiny bit of dark in there, it's going to change the consistency of the lightness in the yellow. So we'll get some more yellow just penetrating through into the sky. The base colour of deep violet is working nicely against some of the shades. So I'm kind of happy with the progression at this stage. Just a few shots of yellow here and there. I'll use a little bit more of the yellow ochre with some burnt sienna. Again, I want to look for as much variety as I possibly can. And again, just using some rich, vibrant shades at the corner of this tree, just to suggest the sunlight is penetrating the corners. There's a couple of branches which I'll use magenta and a little bit of purple just to give me some idea where they're coming through. I'm trying to analyse where I need more light and dark or cool colour, so we'll get a few more shots here and there. Bit of green. Again, I'm kind of analysing as I go, making sure there's interest all the way through. The one thing I do like about acrylics is that they dry quick. I can finish this painting in one sitting, really. I'll just need to allow these initial colours to settle down a touch before I go in with really strong, potent highlights. We'll just get another couple of shots here and there. Quite a good idea to step back occasionally just to see how your painting's working from further away. When you work with marks, you do, like I say, associate them in a little bit more an abstract way. And we're just coming to the end of this stage now. Again, just step back and try to locate any subtle flecks. So maybe around here we could do with a couple of flecks of colour. There should be this unity of colours throughout the painting. A few more marks there. I might go in a little bit darker there. I'm already thinking of the next stage. I tend to think 2 or 3 steps ahead of the painting. So my brush arm, if you like, is just reacting to what I'm thinking of at the time. And I'm already a few steps ahead. Okay, so I would think that will do for the first stage of really getting colour on in large quantities.